Welcome to Barnyard Language, honest talk about running farms and raising families. We are Caite and Arlene, an Iowa sheep farmer and an Ontario dairy farmer, with 6 kids, 2 husbands, and a whole lot of chaos between us.
While this is a podcast for farm families, sometimes our content isn't for the whole family. So kick off your boots, reheat your coffee, and join us for some Barnyard Language.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Barnyard Language. Arlene and Caite here with the post-Easter and, in her case, lambing update. So, Caite, what's happening on the farm? How many cute babies are there?
A fuck ton. That's a technical term, Arlene. I don't know if you know it, if it's the same over there in the cattle industry, but a fuck ton is the correct answer. We are done lambing.
That seems pretty efficient. All in a couple of weeks? 3 weeks?
Yeah. No, that's excellent news. I think that the age of the rams does not determine how quickly the ewes cycle, but it certainly has a positive impact on how many ewes can be bred in any specific amount of time.
Right. You had 2 younger rams who had more stamina. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, 2 yearling rams are apparently much more efficient than 2 older rams. We have a shitload of lambs. Jim changed some feeding protocols, and we had what I feel like we can now safely say was the easiest lambing season we've ever had. Pulled 0 lambs.
Oh, now something's going to go wrong.
Yeah, I still feel like I'm looking around shifty-eyed, like not attracting the notice of the sheep gods. But no, it went really well. Other than that, actually today is the anniversary of my first date with Jim. I had to look to see what day it was. So there's that. It's been 14 years and we're both still here. So that's good. We'll start field work in a few more weeks. Sounds like our weather's been better than yours, except that last week while I was in Milwaukee, we got about 2.5 inches of rain, which is not a big deal, except apparently the pipe that the sump pump drains into ends somewhere mysteriously. No one seems to know quite where the other end of it goes.
Old house problems. That was another generation was responsible for that.
At some point since the last time the sump pump ran, the pipe has become non-draining, shall we say. And so when I got home, there was water coming out of the sump pump drain pipe faster than there was water leaving the basement. And so I had a quick rearrangement of knocking a pane of window glass out simply to have somewhere else to go with the drain from the sump pump. Thankfully, it's now not 8 inches deep in our basement because, we have a furnace and a water heater in that, and I like having a furnace and a water heater.
Yeah, both of those things are good when they're not submerged. Now, do you have a dirt floor basement?
We do have a dirt floor, stone foundation basement, so it's not. Thankfully, there's nothing stored down there that can't get damp.
Right. There is a level, though, where you don't want it to hit.
Yes. And it was the water heater and the furnace and that are all up on concrete to raise them above that level, but that level still has a level at which it is too deep, and we were very rapidly approaching that level.
Yes, we have an old house as well, an old wet house, and I know what you're saying. We actually, the house where my husband and I lived when we first got married has lost a furnace in the past because it was one of those winters where the power went out or the sump pump failed. I can't remember which, but the water definitely came in much faster than we were able to deal with it and had to replace the furnace because of that issue.
We did get a new water softener installed yesterday, and it's amazing how bubbly our soap is now. Much, much less soap required for baths last night, which was very nice, except all the rust and shit that's been building up in the lines has been knocking loose.
Now it's soft too.
It's real gross. Yeah. Other than that, nothing exciting.
How was your Easter? Were there things?
Oh, busy. We had some friends came over with their kid, and my friend Claire, the knitter, came over and knit, and we ate way too much, and the kids were very loud. Somebody gave them silly string, which they really enjoyed.
It wasn't you.
It was not me. I'll tell you what. No, it was good. It's honestly really nice having the in-laws right across the road. I mean, it always is, but especially for holidays because there's no traveling. We go across the road and then we come home, and that's nice. How was your Easter, Arlene?
It was good. There were not a lot of events. We had one dinner on the Saturday night, which was fine. Similar scenario, my mother in law had offered to host, so we just had to go across the road. Sometimes there's, maybe up to 10 minutes of travel if my sister in law has it at her place. But it was a new tradition. I don't know if this is going to be a tradition or not. My mother in law offered to host, but said she wasn't going to cook anything. So, I mean, I didn't know that was an option, but I personally quite like that if I can also do that because I don't mind cleaning my house and I don't mind cooking food, but doing both feels like a lot. So she did the setup and the cleaning of the house part, but then, and provided, condiments and beverages, but otherwise didn't prepare any of the food. And so that actually, I mean, for me, it worked out. I'm not sure how other people felt about it, but I was quite content to not have to clean my bathroom and eat a delicious meal with my husband's side of the family. And what else happened this weekend? Oh, my number two. So, my 18-year-old got his full license yesterday, which is exciting. So, in our province, there's a graduated program. So, you get like a learner's permit, and then you get the first phase of your license after a driver's test, and then you wait a period of time, and then you can take the second phase. So, he now has his full license. So, he said, so do I have to do another test? In like a year or two? And we said, no, you get to wait now till you're 80. So, just carry on, which is kind of a weird concept to think that, not that I want to, keep looping back around to doing driving tests, but that we just assume that once people get their license, I mean, I suppose you can lose it for a variety of reasons if you really mess up badly, but that, from now on, he's just good to go.
I really do think there should be like every decade and then perhaps every 5 years, at least a short.
Just a little refresher of some kind. Yeah.
Put a video in put a camera in the front dash for a week and you can turn that video in and just let us see. Because I feel like everybody has folks they know who, for one reason or another, should not still be allowed to drive or should perhaps have slightly less freedom.
Maybe some limitations. Yeah.
Just when you're moving something that large and that potentially dangerous, maybe keeping an eye on things is a good idea.
Yeah. Not like huge government oversight, but just to check it now and then. But I'm not going to propose it because then I would have to make complete stops again.
Well, as long as they don't force us to try parallel parking again. Or
yeah, that's right. We know we can. We all know we can avoid that. We just don't do that skill.
I'm sure there are people who live in places where parallel parking is a thing. I'm not one of them. And I mean, I maybe go one place where parallel parking might sometimes save me 50 feet of walking. That's not enough motivation to make me parallel park.
Yeah. They did make some changes to like our closest town a few years ago, and it had been angle parking and they changed it to parallel parking, but it's the kind that has a bike lane beside it and they didn't paint any lines on the spots. So they're very easy to just pull into. So I don't mind that because it's not like you really have to get right up close to a curb because it's kind of a gradual slope. And without the lines, you can just kind of aim your way in there and be like, good enough. Or I can go around the block and find a spot somewhere else.
My issue is more that the only place I would parallel park, you're blocking all the traffic on the main drag while you parallel park, and that just seems like
that's way too much pressure.
A lot of pressure. Like I'd rather go around the corner, thanks.
Yeah. Don't mess this up. Everyone's watching.
Everyone's looking at you. Yeah.
What else do I have to report? It's been a couple of weeks since we talked. It's spring-ish. Most of the days. There was one day where it was really hot and I almost wanted to change into my summer clothes, and then today it snowed. But that just feels like typical spring in northern-ish places. There is one Jersey who is very pregnant and occupying the box stall at the moment, but she's going to stay there as long as she possibly can because she is a princess and feels like that's where she deserves to be. And what else is going on? Oh, other news from my number two, also the same 18-year-old who got his driver's license. He got into the college program that he has been waiting on. He got into a few others, which were all ones that he applied for and would have been happy to go to, but there was one in particular that he was waiting on, and it had a portfolio requirement and some extra things, letters of reference and stuff that needed to be filled out because it's a more competitive program, and he got in. So that was very exciting, and also adds, a list of things for me to worry about, because now we have to start thinking about the fact that he is actually going to move out of the house. And for some reason, I was kind of ready for my firstborn. I feel less ready for this one, but I'm sure it's all going to work out. He'll be fine. I'll be fine. We're all going to adjust.
You'll be fine. He'll be fine. Everyone at college will be fine. Hopefully he knows how to parallel park.
Oh, he will not be going with a vehicle. No, he's going to a much more urban place with public transportation options, and there will not be a car there with him.
Well, congratulations to him. That is very exciting stuff to, go out in the world.
Yes. So we're going to introduce two guests for this week, and the episode might be a little chaotic, but you'll figure it out. It's going to be fun. I hope you enjoy it.
All right.
Podcasts are free to listen to, but they aren't free to create. Katie and I would appreciate your support as we work to build the Barnyard language community.
Patreon is an easy way for you to make a contribution that goes directly to making the show. As a member of our Patreon community, you get to watch the video version of our weekly updates, complete with questionable hairstyles and clutter. With 3 levels of support, you can choose a tier that works for you.
Keep the podcast going by becoming a patron today at patreon.com/barnyardlanguage.
Okay, so this is going to be an interesting day. For those of you listening, depending what feed you're on, you might hear some voices that you recognize and some voices that you don't. So this is Arlene from the Barnyard Language podcast. And normally there's 2 or sometimes 3 of us in the studio, but today we've got 4 because we have Ag's Most Okayest Farm Girls with us as well. And so I guess I'm going to start just because I started talking first, and this could be chaos because we all love to talk. And we always start our episodes with the question, what are you growing? So I'm going to start with Annaliese because she's closest to me on my screen, and she's one of the Okayest Farm Girls, and she's going to tell us who she is and what she's growing.
Well, hello, everybody, and thank you, gals, for having us on your podcast. We're excited to chat. So what am I growing? Over here in Wisconsin, we are growing dairy cattle and kids. I farm with my husband and his parents. We milk about 600 cows, and we are raising the 3rd generation on the farm, our twins, Lane and Sage. And then I guess in addition to that, with my podcast co-host Courtney, we are growing a community of rural women, and that's what our podcast is all about.
Let's see. I am growing Texas Longhorn cattle alongside my husband. What else? Rural community with our podcast. I also love to garden. So I'm just like gearing up I love to grow flowers. And I also have a farmer's co-op I started in town. So I'll be fixing up a bunch of bouquets and floral arrangements for that.
And I feel like you need to toot your own horn more because your co-op store, that thing is really a growing.
Well, thank you. Yes, we're about to remodel.
All the time.
And then are you also growing some kids on that farm?
Oh, yeah, my kids. Forgot about that. Yes. I have 2 girls, 7 and 10, and they are feral, crazy children.
So, Katie, for our listeners, this might be a repeat, but for other listeners, it could be a new one. What are you growing and where are you?
So I am in far northeastern Iowa. Annaliese, I think we've met in person at a mastermind like 1.5 years ago. I have 2 kids who are 9 and almost 8, as we've discussed basically every day since his sister turned 9. My husband and I raise beef cattle. We have Normandy beef cattle. We've got about 20 cow calf pairs. We also raise Katahdin hair sheep. We're coming up to lambing we're at the end of February now. And yes, Arlene, I did just try to look out my window to see what was happening. And we have about 300 acres of crops and timber that we farm with my husband's family. And Arlene, would you like to tell us about yourself?
Sure. Yeah. So my name is Arlene Hunter, and I'm the Canadian in the room or on the Zoom or wherever we are. I'm on my husband's family farm, was a farm girl who said I'd never marry a farmer and then did. So we're on a dairy farm in Eastern Ontario, Canada. So kind of between Ottawa and Montreal and Toronto, if anyone knows Canadian geography, and not too far from the upper New York State. And we milk around 80 cows and we grow crops, hay, corn, soybeans, all the usual stuff to feed our cows and then to sell some. And we're also growing some kids. So I have a newly 20, 18, 15, and 11-year-old. Everybody's birthdays are real close together. So I'm pausing because I have to remember all the new birthdays. And one of them, my oldest, she's away at university doing an animal science degree. And then I've got 3 boys who are here at home. So we're actually at a stage where we've got a lot of help with chores, which is great. But as they start to move out, then we lose our workforce. So that's a whole new challenge. And then Katie and I are also trying to grow community as well. One of our goals when we started an ag and parenting podcast was to be a place where ag parents, both men and women, can feel like they're understood and, recognize the fact that there's no right way to farm and there's no right way to parent, and we're all just doing our best and trying to figure it out as we go, so we can hopefully be a place where people can feel supported and understood and realize that nobody's got it all together.
Nobody's got it all together. Preach.
Court, I'm just glad that I'm not the first one who called their children feral in this episode, because yeah, that's probably the most common adjective used about my family. So
It's our main message too.
But it's the best way to raise kids. I mean, I wouldn't want it any other way. I'm glad they're out there getting into shenanigans. And my son just got a BB gun, so
There's a milestone that's not in the baby books.
I know he's trying to shoot everything at the farm, and we've got a.
I was going to say, has he shot his sister yet?
No, thank God. We're trying to lay down the rules, and I told my daughter, I'm like, just when your brother's shooting birds, just stay away.
I have a very distinctive childhood memory of my cousins dressing one of probably the youngest, up in layers of like insulated coveralls and clothes and making him run across the yard while they tried to shoot at him as he ran. So don't suggest that to him. It didn't turn out well.
Annalise, I did see they have little dinosaur-shaped metal targets at Walmart, because we're also,
Ooh.
I think, approaching the BB gun stage, and something less realistic seemed like a better target choice, since that's where our Nerf gun rules have been about no shooting living things. Mostly for the cat's sake and the dogs, but...
And the chickens.
Yeah, and the chickens are pretty fast, so...
Those Nerf guns are, they're no joke. They're like, we have eye protection and everything that we have to put on because they'll like leave bruises.
Well, those things are now like semi-automatic. They're not the same as our childhood Nerf guns.
I think I've only gotten, my kids at this point are down to the darts that don't fit quite right, which I think has really taken down the feet per second situation on our Nerf guns.
Yeah, impact.
All our Nerf guns, yeah, there's like if you find a bullet, it's like score because they're all missing. And they'll take the Nerf guns outside. They're all over the yard. I mow them up and I'm like, you got to pick these up. I ain't buying you more.
And I'm not getting off the lawnmower to pick them up either. So if they're there, they're gone.
Nope.
Yeah.
So one of the things we thought we might talk about today is friendship. But I guess since we're all women in the room, we can focus more specifically on female friendships. Why don't we start out with, we're all talking online. How did you two meet each other and decide that you wanted to both be friends and podcast together? I'm just assuming that you're friends because you're podcasting together.
Right. Yeah, she's all right.
Can't stand her.
I'll call her a friend if I must.
No, it's actually funny because when we first met, the next morning, I attended one of her masterminds and I drank a little too much that night. And then the next morning, I told my friend, Christy, that I had come up with, I was like, that broad is never going to talk to me again. Like, I'm so sorry you have to be associated with me. And then she like messaged me and here we are.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I was like, oh, that lady is a good time. Like, I need to hang out with her again.
That's the kind of friend I need in my life.
Yes. But yeah. And then after that, I think I had said something in my Instagram stories about potentially starting a podcast one day. And Courtney DM'd me and she's like, if you do, I want to do it with you. Like, haha, thinking it was a joke. And I was like, cool. When do we start?
Yeah. Let me put it on my calendar. I'm like, oh, okay. She's serious.
And here we are.
Now, did you have a couple glasses of wine before you did your first recording too? Or are you stuck sober for your...
I think we did. Didn't we? We were nervous.
Yeah. I mean, I was nervous probably that whole first season. Before recording.
When we recorded our first episode, like we hadn't even talked on the phone yet to each other. Like we were very new friends, like social media friends. You're DMing, you're sending memes, but like it is awkward. And maybe that's where we can start talking about this friendship is having a friend you can talk to comfortably on the phone is rare these days.
It just takes time, you know?
Yeah. To get like the flow and like, is she liking what I'm saying? Would she not want to be on the phone right now? Would she rather be somewhere else?
Does she want to FaceTime? Is that weird? Like, do we want to make eye contact?
FaceTime is weird. Yeah. So it's been a ride. But now I feel like it's easy. We'll talk on the phone. We'll talk anywhere. Usually we're talking on 3 different social media platforms at one time.
Like voice memos, Instagram DMs, all at once, emails.
Yeah, it's like the green eggs and ham. We'll talk on a boat. We'll talk on
That's literally what I was thinking of. Or like in psychic connection, which is unfortunate for you.
I've read a lot of Dr. Seuss.
How long have you guys been running this podcast for? It's been several years, right?
So we're 5 years in at this point, and we were also internet friends who had never met each other. Started out in like one of those mom Facebook groups because, you know, that's where you go when you're lonely and rural and can't seem to get your act together to get out of the house and actually meet people in real life. And it was through a podcast called One Bad Mother, and it was the non-farm version of kind of what we're doing, I think, right? You know, it was a judgment-free zone of, you know, everyone's trying their best and like sharing stories that, you know, were relatable and things like that. But then the Facebook group was trying to be that as well. You know, there were a lot of rules and sometimes it would almost blow up because people would get mad at each other because stuff on the internet is toxic. But for the most part, it kept itself together because they were really strict about rules. And then there was an offshoot that was for farm moms. And so it was like a smaller group than that. So there was one year I was going to World Dairy Expo in Madison with my husband. And so I posted in the group, I was like, hey, internet friends, does anyone live in Wisconsin and is going to be at Expo? Like, let's meet up and not be weird in person.
I clearly did not get the not be weird memo, but I did my best.
Well, or be weird in person instead of on the internet. Yeah, so she wasn't going to Expo, but she doesn't live super far away, so we both drove a couple hours. I was like, I don't need to watch the Brown Swiss show, and so I took our rental car and drove a couple hours, and she drove a couple hours, and we met at a cheese plant, and I held her youngest, who's now what, almost 9, you said?
Almost 8.
Almost 8, yeah. So I held her youngest so she could finish eating her sandwich, and that was like one of only 3 times that we've ever met in person.
Well, I think he was only, like 5 or 6 months old? He was a little tater.
So you guys actually met in Wisconsin for the first time.
Yes, exactly. It all comes back to Wisconsin.
Yeah, changing the subject. What is the cheese scene in Canada? Do you guys have good cheese up there comparable to Wisconsin?
I think we have some pretty good cheeses. This could get political. The only issue that we have is that because of supply management, we don't have a lot of imports. So that's good in the sense that it means that local cheesemakers have kind of a bit more of a protected market, but also we're a smaller country. So, there's maybe not as much variety as I remember that time we went to Wisconsin and the people we were staying with at the Airbnb, he went to the grocery store to go get some stuff. And he was standing in front of this like store length case of cheese and just like standing there kind of dumbfounded. And this worker came along and was like, "Can I help you with something, sir?" And he's like, "I'm just looking for some cheese." And the guy kind of like looked back. He's like, "I'm kidding. I just don't know how to focus here." So, I mean, there's a lot of good quality cheesemakers, but definitely not the breadth of selection.
Well, and certainly in Madison during Dairy Expo is a very cheese-centric situation.
They have a cheese festival that Annaliese took me to over the summer, and it had the best cheese, like just giant buffets of different cheeses all over the place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Art of Cheese Festival. They do it every other year, and we just went to the like nighttime banquet part of it, but they have like classes and exhibits and Food Network chefs. Like it's a whole like 3 or 4 day long event. So like next time, Courtney, we got to do more things because
that sounds dreamy. Now, I must say, for a state that has so much curd, there was no poutine anywhere, which, well, as a Canadian, is very weird because we can get poutine like at every restaurant. Even McDonald's serves poutine.
Really? That's weird.
Yes. Yeah, you can upsize your fries, and you can also poutinize your fries at like any fast food.
Huh.
Any fast food restaurant is going to have poutine as an option.
Am I the only one that doesn't know what poutine is?
Oh, sorry. Poutine is fries with cheese curds and gravy.
What?
So you pour the gravy over top, and then cheese curds start to melt into the French fries.
Why have I never tried this?
So I feel like I'm just going to, since it was my suggestion, I guess, I was thinking the other day about how like women's friendship is portrayed in the media, and especially, I'm in my mid-40s. Arlene's roughly the same age that I am. That we grew up with like Friends and Sex in the City and all these like, having friendships will just be effortless, and you'll go to lots of fancy brunches and wear really expensive clothes and talk about your sex life extensively. And now I notice that none of these people in the shows ever have kids or farms, but I feel like, yeah. Or they have a farm, but it's a Hallmark movie and nobody ever actually does anything. There's like one cute scene where somebody falls in some mud or something, and then that's it. And it's interesting to me how much more varied adult friendship is, because I'm wondering in the shows too, nobody ever has any friends that aren't part of the immediate cast. Like no one ever has other friends, or goes to the bathroom, which is weird. But maybe they see their other friends in the bathroom. I don't know. But it feels like I have a number of different groups of friends, and I'm wondering if that's a common experience for other rural moms, or at least for the three of you. So
I would agree. Like I have, and I think Courtney, we did an episode on this too, talking about the different groups of friends you might have or different seasons of friends. And I think that's totally normal. Like I would say my best friends are my two sisters. And then I have like a group of core friends from college where we don't talk or see each other that regularly. Like we have a group chat, we might send a meme here or there, an update, and we're lucky if we see each other once or twice a year. But when we do see each other, we pick up right where we left off. Like there's nothing awkward. We don't skip a beat. It's just like it was when it was 2007 and we met. And then I have like acquaintances and friends that like you, I don't know, like are almost convenient. Like your kids are in the same class or they are in 4-H together or they're your neighbors. And it's like you don't maybe get to those deep level type conversations as you do with your best friends or your core friends, but like they're good people to have in your corner.
I don't know if you guys have read The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. She talks about how friendships can be very like like if you have, like, let's say when I worked in the ER, like my friends were my coworkers. And a lot of times like your friendships will come and go depending on where you are at life, like what's easiest, what's convenient. And I somewhat agree with that, but I have a hard time with like, she was also saying in the book, like, it's okay to kind of like let go of some friendships. And I just can't let go of friendships. Like, I have the same childhood friends. I just saw one yesterday. Like, these same three people have been in my life forever. Like, I could never, and one of them, like, has always lived in a different state, but like, we stay connected. Even like Annaliese said, if we haven't seen each other in a year, like we'll pick up where we left off. But sorry, I went on a tangent. But I have several different friend groups too, like the childhood friends, you know.
Yeah, I would say that I'm similar. Like there's the people that I went to university with. I've got a couple of friends still that I keep in touch with from high school, and I think with myself, with my kids, the stretch of ages that they are, I have, like kind of picked up a few along the way, like I can think of like the ones I met when I had my first kid and I was like, I had moved to this community, but I was working in the city. And so I lived here, but didn't know anybody here. My husband was farming, I was working and commuting. And then I had a baby and it was like, oh gosh, like I don't actually know anyone in this town, especially someone with kids. And so like those first few people that I met and really connected with when I had my firstborn, like some of those are still my really close friends, but it feels like those are my like first local, like the people that I met in this town. And there were things that we bonded over that, we've maintained for years. And then I kind of like pick up, like kind of one or two with each kid, right? You find they have a best friend and even sometimes their relationships fall apart, like those kids now that they're in high school, I might still be friends with the mom, but they're not friends as teenagers anymore. But we have to like be able to like grow and adapt that way too, because the mom friends, you can't get too absorbed in your kids relationship, because then it's like, okay, well, if they're not friends anymore, are we still friends? And you can be if you want, right? But then that can be those situational ones too, right? Where if it sometimes there are those relationships where it's like it was convenient and I don't dislike them, but like do I want to put in the effort to maintain a relationship with just them if it's not also paired with our kids are getting together or we're hanging out as a family? If those things don't work anymore, then sometimes it is okay to let those ones go a little bit. Not that you have to like cut ties and be like, you're gone, like, yeah, don't have to burn it all down.
Let's go back for a second because you mentioned how when you moved and you had to like create new friends, you didn't know anybody in the community. I went through the same thing. And I feel like making friends, especially as an adult, is so hard. Especially me as someone who I want to get to the weird stuff. I want to talk about the deep stuff, not the weather, not our kids in school. You know what I mean? And so it's hard to find people that are going to be like okay with that, like you really connect with. I've been, I don't know, living in this town now for, well, Tom and I have been married, I don't even remember how many years, 13, 14 years. And I feel like I just found a group of women that I can finally get silly and weird with. Like it took that long. Like I finally have a good new group of friends and I'm really pumped about it, but it took forever.
Yeah, I remember one thing when my first was born, going to like a baby talk type group, like it was at the health unit, and they would do a weigh in, and the nurse would talk about raising babies and how to feed them and all that kind of stuff. And looking around the room and thinking like these people all know each other already, like because they were chatting and stuff, and it wasn't true. They didn't all know each other. Like maybe one of them had been there for 2 weeks and I had just arrived, but it felt like that walking in. But then I heard someone with a British accent, and I was like, oh, she didn't grow up here. So I like sidled up to her, and she's actually still my friend to this day. But it was just that little sign to be like, oh, there's someone else who probably didn't go to high school here, right? And I'd come back from things like that, and my husband would be like, oh, so who'd you see? And he's like trying to piece it together, like people's last names and stuff. And it was like, stop. I'm just trying to make new friends. You don't need to know them or tell me what they were like in high school.
I feel like having a kid too, though, is kind of like, having a puppy as far as how much more people approach you. And it opens all these like different places where you might meet people in sort of the same phase of life. But I know I took my kids to baby yoga once when they were very, baby yoga aged, I guess. And the bigger town near us is bigger, more liberal. There's a small college there, yada, yada, yada. So fewer people have kids that are 16 months apart. Like our more rural friends, we have a number of friends whose kids are less than 12 months apart, let alone 16 months apart is like a huge age gap. So I show up with my two little kids, and I'm a hot mess anyway, right? But my daughter goes, it's in the basement of the library. My daughter goes running down the hallway, and she's like, not even 2, I don't think. Biffs it on the steps of the library, busts one of her teeth, blood everywhere. I've got a baby, I've got a diaper bag, I've got all this other shit. I've got a kid with blood everywhere, and it's winter, so there's like salt in her mouth, and she's screaming. One mom got up and helped me. And I was like, you are my people. The rest of y'all with your like matching mommy baby yoga outfits, and like I'm sure you're lovely, I'm sure you are, but you are not my people. Like
that's nice of you to say that, because they're probably not lovely.
I'm gonna give them some grace on that one. But yeah, Annaliese, like you, like I want to get to the weird stuff because I'm really shitty at acting normal, so I don't want to have pressure to like try to be normal. But that's also why I started the podcast, because I feel like if you show up on my podcast, like you're giving me permission to be nosy about your life. Like, I'm going to ask about your life. We usually send an outline, so you even probably have some idea how nosy I intend to be. So it's kind of on your head if you.
And we might talk about the weather briefly, only because we're curious, but that's not going to be the only topic, right? We're going to ask you how you felt when you had your baby. We're going to, we're going to go there right away. And it has been wild, the types of conversations and the types of things that people are willing to answer when you just ask the question, right? Like, and I feel like going deep earlier can kind of weed out the people who are not going to end up being your friend. The thing I found as an adult too is being more flexible with, like the people who aren't in the same stage as you. If you join a book club or a community activity or whatever, like sometimes if that woman who's 20 years older than you and you have a good connection, like she should absolutely be your friend too. You don't have to just be friends with people who are in the same stage of life as you are, because they might have so much in common with you, and the fact that you're not the same age or not at the same stage of life really makes no difference whatsoever, and you can be really good friends and still relate to each other on most things.
I think it's a real upside of having a group of people you see too that are more community based and less like life phase based. Like I attend a weekly craft night. And so I spend, at least a few hours a week with people who are high school and college age and people who are in their 80s and everywhere in between. And it's really nice to have that breadth of experience and, where people are in life and to still connect as a community.
Yeah. One thing I did, it was recently after I had moved to this town where my husband lives and farms. And like I said, I didn't know anybody. I knew a few of our neighbors, and I had seen someone else on social media do this where once a month somebody hosts a little get together. Everybody brings an appetizer to share, a bottle of wine, and 10 or more dollars. And you're always welcome to bring a friend, like it's encouraged. And so I started that, and it was really fun. We would eat, drink, and then we'd pool all the money together and decide where in our community we wanted to donate it. And it was just really cool because that's how I met so many people, because everybody each time would bring a new friend and you're meeting new people. And I would recommend that to anybody that is in a new place or space. Like, start something, find something, put yourself out there, meet new people.
I thought it was always funny that, like, when I worked in healthcare, one of my closest coworker friends was a 60-year-old woman. And there were plenty of people my age, but she was one of my closest friends. And it was just, I don't know. She was in a completely different stage in her life. She was a grandma, but we just connected on that level. Probably because she also was like, not into small talk and just deep conversations about childhood trauma. Like, it's just, those are my people.
So speaking about getting weird, Court, because what you just said about childhood trauma really brought this back up for me. Two of my closest friends and I, we met when our kids were babies to toddlers. So we've been close friends for 6 to 8 before the pandemic. Okay. However long ago that was. And for at least a year before that. So we've gotten super close. We talk every day. We meet at least once a week. These are two of my closest friends, but we have none of that backstory from before that. We know each other's partners. We've at least heard about each other's families, but at least once every few days, somebody will say something from the before times. And it's just this total shock sometimes of something that we just, because somebody really well in this phase of their life, but not at all from anything that happened, in the 30 to 40 years that they were a person before you knew them. And I'm wondering what other people's experiences are with just handling that, or trying to get a handle on these things, because it's always kind of random when things come up like that.
One of the things that Annaliese and I did was we went on the farm cruise and we had ourselves a couple cocktails and we trauma dumped on each other and just went through every horrible thing that happened to us before this point. And then afterwards we're like, all right, we're all caught up.
Yep. We really let her rip. Did we cry? I don't know. We were just drinking and snacking and talking shit, and it was so much fun. I love doing that.
I do too. No regrets. So that's my recommendation for anyone listening. Just,
that was an optional excursion on the cruise, was the trauma cruise.
It's just the two of us, but maybe we should have invited more people.
I'm just picturing the actual the actual trauma cruise event that's one of those podcast weeks at sea, but instead it's just booze and trauma dump.
Are we onto something here, guys? We might be.
Yeah. Invite a few therapists in.
Yes.
Have some cry yoga.
We know a lot of therapists now, Arlene.
No, I think when something like that comes up, though, when a friend drops some sort of big or little bomb, I usually am hold up, pause the conversation. Let's dive into that. And I think that's how you really learn about someone. Like if you can chat about where they came from and what they went through, like that's gonna strengthen any relationship. Like that's the good stuff. That's the weird stuff.
Who wants to trauma dump something right now? Just kidding.
Do you guys remember your first like best friend?
I do.
Mine was, I grew up on a farm, and I remember this family, the dad was working for us, and they moved next door just before I started kindergarten, and they had a little girl the same age, and we used to like crisscross through the pasture field under the electric fences to go see each other. So part of my like memory of like going to see her is like climbing under the fences and trying to like not hit the electric wires going back and forth to her house. So that was my first best friend.
Say I'm going on a cruise this spring with my childhood best friend that I think started out largely the same way that your guys' podcast started out, that I sent her a text and was like, did you know they have craft cruises? And literally before I knew it, we were signed up for a 2-week cruise. And I was like, wait, that's not what I meant. Like, okay, you know.
I had two best friends when I was little, and they were actually boys because our farm was out in the country, but at the time we lived in town. And so they were the two little neighbor boys. And we were just weird. Like we would take spaghetti noodles, like uncooked, and pretend they were wands. And we were just always doing goofy, weird things. And we really didn't have any other friends besides each other. And I don't think I had a girlfriend until like 4th grade, and then I kind of met a group of girls, and I met my new best friend then, and then she was my friend I think all the way up until high school, and then we kind of drifted apart.
I think it's interesting, Court. I'm interested to hear your take on this, but it sounds like, because I also, my childhood best friend, we moved to Iowa and we literally rented a trailer in her family's front yard. So, like, there was no real option that we weren't going to be friends because we literally lived like 50 feet from their house. But it seems like farm kids are a lot more likely to, I don't want to say take what you can get, because that sounds pretty harsh when I'm talking about someone. Yeah, I mean, my best friend is basically my sister at this point. I'm an only child, so it's, like, we introduce each other as sisters, which is hilarious because we look less than nothing alike. Like, if one of us was actually adopted, we would probably look more similar than we do. But it seems like maybe farm kids get more used to building a friendship that might be less obvious or automatic than you would if you were, like, in a sports ball team together or something, where it was more like you have this thing in common already. So, Court, I'm interested to hear about who you were forced to be friends with.
Well, I actually grew up not on a farm, so I was in the suburbs. So my best friends were always like neighbor kids. And actually, my first best friend was a boy too. But I actually I was born in Michigan and created these friends. And then I was moved to another place in Michigan. And then I had to start over. And then my parents moved us to Indiana. And then I had to start over again. And then I moved to Wisconsin and started over again. So my childhood was just, and it was difficult because I was a very shy kid. And so it took me a while to create these friendships, and then my family would move and I would have to start over. So maybe that's why I hold on to my friendships for so long, because I'm like, no.
I was just going to say that.
Exactly. Honestly, there's probably some truth to that.
Mm-hmm. We'll save it for our trauma cruise so we can dig this all back up.
Are there things, as you've watched your kids make friends, that have triggered memories in you, or that you found particularly difficult to figure out because it brings up your own either trauma or, you know, feelings in yourself that are not actually maybe about them and what they're doing with their friends.
I mean, I can relate to my girls. My oldest has a friend that, like, she's kind sometimes, but then they go through like moments where they're just, she almost turns into a frenemy or a bully, and it's like, oh, I remember that growing up, going through like frenemies and just having to navigate that and like find a different group of friends. It's hard to watch your child go through that because you know how it feels like such a big deal at that age.
And it is for them, right? Like that's their life, and it's
Yeah, I would say same. Like, not that it's exactly the same, but anytime my kids like, oh, you know, Emma and Ashley decided to be partners today and left me out, and like, even though they chose to partner up and my kid didn't get picked that or paired with them that time, she feels like, well, now we're not friends. And just having to kind of help them figure that out. Look, it was just one day. It was, you know, one situation. Talk with your friends tomorrow. Tell them how you're feeling. Because yeah, I remember that as a kid. Like, everything feels so big and so intentional. And all of us as mothers now, we know that kids are just kids. They're just thinking about the here and the now and not how it might affect someone. Like, there's usually no ill intentions, but to kids, it's just tough.
With the play dates too, like their two friends will have a play date together, and it's like this whole thing that it's like, I have to talk you through this. And yeah, it's like, you have play dates too with just one friend at a time. It doesn't mean they love you less. Like, it's hard to explain to them.
And you're talking them through this, also knowing there's a pretty good chance in a couple years they might not be friends with these people. You know, like, sometimes I want to be like, you're not going to know them in a few years anyway.
It's not going to matter.
right. Believe me, I don't want you to be still friends in high school.
Yeah.
So the flip side of that, Annaliese, because this is something that, as a kid who moved a lot, and I moved a lot as an adult, there are people in our small community who are married to people they've known since preschool. And now I look at the kids my kids know, and part of my brain is like, my kid could marry this person. How would I feel about that? Like, do I like their parents enough to like
should I encourage this?
Deal with this? And also just like the idea that at 7 or 8 they might already know the person that is, you know, even if they don't marry them, it might be their best friend or might be their college roommate, or like, you know, my husband has a number of friends that he's been friends with since before preschool. And I mean, he's 47 and they're still like close friends that he talks to at least a couple times a week. And it's just strange to me, I guess, that they're just like out there. And the trying to talk your kids through these conflicts without minimizing it, because it is so big to them. But in retrospect, you're like, baby, I'm so glad that this is like the big conflict in your life, is that some kid didn't want to play with you, you know. But also, I really was not prepared for the first time I wanted to cut a bitch because some kid was mean to my baby, and I was just like, I never thought I'd want to throw down with a 7-year-old. Even as a kid, I wasn't that person, and now I'm like,
Mama Bear. Yeah. I'm like, let me march onto that school bus and throw hands at this girl that's being mean to you.
Yeah, and it is so instantaneous. It's such a like gut reaction.
And then the next day they're best friends again, and you're like, no, I hate that kid. Don't you remember? I'm going to remind you how mean they were yesterday.
I'm like, yeah, I'm glad you forgave and forgot, but Mama remembers.
That just made me think, Katie, too. I was thinking of like intergenerational, like the farming, like community friendships. Like the closest dairy farm to us, their kids are in 4-H with mine. And like we're friends with the parents. And like my husband's grandfather and her grandfather, because it's her family farm, used to talk on the phone every day. And like, just how cool is that to think that like my kid's great grandfather and their great grandfather were like buddies?
It's been interesting too because, our family, we live on my husband's family farm, and the next farm south of us is like 7th generation or whatever. And watching this transition, not only from the older generation to the next to our generation, but watching that transition in the relationships, because my husband and the husband of that family are much friendlier than the dads, and watching this sort of roll over, and watching them get to be in charge of making decisions and having it not be, not that they were unfriendly, but just like my husband and his husband are friends.
Somebody's, in the second generation was rude to them, and then we hold on to that for 65 years.
Oh, you mean when there's a bank you can't bank at because a teller was rude to your mother-in-law literally 40 years ago? And you're just like, on the one hand, keep the peace, like, I don't care. But on the other hand, like, really? Like, what is the statute of limitations for these things on how far we're going to take this?
I mean, that is another piece of the puzzle when it comes to making friends as an adult, is also making sure if you're making new couple friends, like your husband has to like the other dude or the other lady. Like that makes it real tough.
The other one we get is if one of your friends has like a sibling or a family member that they have a problem with, that you can't be friends with that person and that person's spouse. And if, God forbid, your spouse is friends with the spouse of one couple and you are friends with the spouse of the other couple.
Oh, but then you get all the gossip. That's the good stuff. But you just have to be careful.
You do get all the gossip, but then there's like, what gossip do I think they haven't heard that they should have heard from their own family, but they didn't?
It's like a whole board game over there, especially when you're saying your husband has friends or has known certain people since before preschool. Like that's drama dating back a long time that you gotta, figure out. And
that's the beauty of a small town. People they do not forget.
That is true.
They do not.
I think when you're talking about the couple friendships, that then those like a full family friendship is the hardest. Like if you can find one of those, and at different stages of life we have had that, and then sometimes as the kids get older, the dynamic shifts and it doesn't really work anymore. But I do kind of envy those families. You see like two families go on vacation together and stuff like that. It's like I can't picture anyone that would work for me. But like if you can find that, I think that's the holy grail. Like to find a family where the kids line up and the parents actually get along. Like if you got that, you just like lock that down. Don't let anybody fight in that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, Annaliese and I, we are getting our kids together this Saturday for the first time. We're taking them, both our families, to a rodeo, and gosh, I hope they like each other. I'm sure they will.
I feel like because both of our husbands too are kind of more like quiet and timid, and even though they've met 2 or 3 times, like I feel like they're not like friends yet because it takes those guys so long to really like open up. We're like Courtney and I, we got weird real quick, not shy, but our fellas, it's like, come on guys, talk.
I feel like I have to hold their hand. Like we have to walk them through this. Like
ask him about this. I know he likes this.
Right?
I feel more confident having a play date with my friend's kids than I would with my husband and another husband. Except Arlene's, because my husband and Arlene's husband, haven't ever met in person, but they are like BFFs.
No But we did 2 Valentine's Day episodes where we had the husbands on. They kind of just took over.
Yeah, we need to do that again. Have our husbands on the podcast and just let them go with it. See where it takes us.
So in our podcast, we have a cussing and discussing segment, and you guys have What the Hell, which I feel like it's basically all the same thing. It's just like event sesh. Unless there's any other friendship topics that we haven't covered, do you think we should just like start swearing about the shit that's annoying us?
Yeah. Love it.
All right, who wants to start?
Did you guys know that people are washing their underwear in hotel coffee pots?
I saw that.
Why?
Disturbing. So disturbing.
But not the ones with the pods, right? Like they're not that tiny.
I think those.
Yeah, I think so. Like they're cramming their undies in there.
Oh, so not in the...
And so first I want to know, who isn't packing enough underwear?
That's what I always have way too much of.
I have like 14 pairs and I'm going on a 2-day trip.
Exactly. I'm packing all of the underwear. So why do you even need to wash it?
Why aren't they using the sink?
Right? The water gets hot there too. There's a hot handle.
If your undies need boiling water, I just feel like there's a problem.
And hotel coffee makers are not that big either. I mean, like these must be people with really like much. Mine is, you know, like Costco, like full coverage situation.
Granny panties. That's what I'm rocking.
It's actually a full body suit.
It's a girdle.
Arlene actually just wears a union suit everywhere at all times.
No, I don't want to believe it, and I won't.
My girdle simply cannot fit in this coffee pot.
Arlene, I'm sorry. I'm just picturing now having to have like one of those church urn coffee pots.
Oh man, that's disgusting. Just throw them away if they're that bad. Yeah, there's so many other options.
Yeah, turn it inside out. I don't know.
I have to say that for people who think farmers are gross, like the things we deal with livestock, I'm like, at least my cows aren't washing their underwear in the coffee pot. So,
yeah. Cow germs are nothing compared to people germs.
Humans are disgusting.
They really are.
So, I'm going to go next because mine is also cruise/hotel related. The podcast that Arlene and I met through, one of their things is about not yucking someone else's yum. So, like, if somebody has a food that you don't like, or, you know, just whatever, just let people enjoy the shit they enjoy. Like, just let them. So, we're looking at activities for this cruise that we're going on in May, right? And there's all like shore excursions and castles and art and shit. And like, I'm totally down. Don't get me wrong. I'm here for it. But one of the options is a behind the scenes tour of the ship. And they like take you up on like the bridge to see like all the computers and shit, and like the engine rooms or whatever to see all this. And then they take you to the laundry room because they have a machine that washes, dries, and folds the linens. One machine. So I'm telling my friend about this. Like, I am so...
Where is this science in our lives, and why has it not?
Right? I'm so excited about this tour. And she's like... And she's normally very, very chill, which I think is why I was so shocked by this. She's like, you'd really rather see that. And it was just like, I was not kidding. Like, yes, I'm signing up. I don't care if you go to see this magic laundry machine. I mean, she's single and doesn't have kids, so she probably doesn't care. But...
What could it do to our farm clothes? Imagine.
Right?
Yeah, why have they been gatekeeping this from all of us?
Well, I'll tell you, she was more on board when I pointed out that the 2 weeks worth of laundry service is really not that expensive and it's unlimited, and we could bring more yarn home if we didn't bring clothes. And now that we know where we can wash our undies, you know, we can really bring more yarn home.
The cruise ship coffee pot.
Arlene, what do you have to what the discussing?
So mine is going in a completely different direction because it's what's been on my mind lately, and it's not poop related, unfortunately. I took a geography degree when I went to school many, many years ago, and I thought at one point that maybe I would go into planning. And I'm really glad that my life did not go in that direction because we are currently trying to work on a planning application for a bit of farm ground. We're trying to sever off a house that we would like to not be landlords for anymore. And it is the most time consuming, confusing, expensive process. And like, none of it makes any sense. It's just like words and documents and multiple levels of government that all have to have opinions and take money from you, and then the conservation authority, and testing the ground and surveying, and there's just so much. I mean, great that there's rules around land use, but I don't understand why it has to be so confusing. And then we hired a consultant to help us through it all because you can't figure it out yourself, and then they just want money every time you turn around. So yeah, it was it's not that complicated. I'm not planning a subdivision. Like, I don't know how people get through all this bureaucracy because it is just mind numbing. So that's my thing right now. And I'm not enjoying it. I really just like to be done, but we're probably still months away from actually figuring any of it out.
Yeah, everything is so complicated these days. There's so much licensing and trying to get approval for anything you ever want to do.
Yeah, more permits on permits on permits. I'm sure having a store has many layers of things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and just like we did some on the farm events too, and that was just a lot of red tape and permits and stupid stuff that we don't need. Like we had like 2 events on our farm once we got the permit, and then that was it. I'm like so glad I paid $900 for this and went through all of these township meetings and
Right, yeah, and insurance then on top of that, and
and county meetings, board meetings. It was crazy. It was crazy.
so what's your what the hell or cussing and discussing court for today?
Mine is mouth sounds. How are we? How are we dealing with that? I can't stand it. And I should preface this convo by saying I am a culprit sometimes with making like a smacking noise. I apologize. But my husband, since he had extensive jaw surgery, I'm so thankful he's doing well, but he chews like a rabid animal now, slurpy, like
Slurping is the one that gets me. I can't handle a slurping.
I can't do it. It makes me rage and disgusted. Not like that's annoying kind of thing. Like it physically hurts me inside. And so I'm like, how do I deal with this? I can't stand it. I don't know what to do. It's gotten worse because Aaron claims like he can't feel his jaw. Even though I'm like, I feel like sometimes you can control, like, are you just not wanting to control it?
Maybe things don't line up the way they used to after all, like
Probably.
trying to give them the benefit of the doubt, but I get it. Have you tried the loop earbuds, like the headphones?
No, like I want to wear like little headphones or earbuds, but then I feel like I love my family supper time. I want to feel present.
But the ones where you can still hear conversation and don't completely block it out, like I listen to those. I have those in at night now because my husband claims that he had his hearing tested and they told him it's within the normal range. I'm using quote marks here, but he's a farmer and has been around loud equipment for his whole life. And so the volume of his TikToks is much higher than what I can tolerate from across the room. So at least with the loops, like they just like tone it down a little bit so I can like still read my book and I can converse with him, but I don't have to hear the volume of either the TV or the TikTok videos that he needs for his normal range of hearing.
I'm going to give that a try and I will report back. Maybe that'll save.
Might save your marriage. Or at least family dinner, right? My oldest was telling me a while ago that her roommates at university know now that when she leaves the room, it's because she doesn't want to listen to them eat. But they don't sit down and have like family dinners as roommates, so she's okay with it.
I will say I now feel super uncomfortable visiting any of you, just because now I'm like, if I make any noise whatsoever, somebody's gonna lose their shit.
Just don't slurp your soup.
It's such a common thing. Like, there's even a name for it. They call it misophonia. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's what common triggers: chewing, crunching, swallowing, slurping, lip smacking sounds.
The one that gets me is that my husband in particular, sorry dear, in case you're listening to this, I love you. He will have like a bag of chips or whatever, and the act of retrieving an item from that Mylar bag sounds like there's like 3 rabid raccoons in there, just like having a fist fight. I don't like what is happening?
What are you doing with your hand? Just like in and out. Yeah. Take the first one. They all taste the same, I promise. So ladies, we always end our episode with this same question, so I'm going to lay it on you. We started our very first episode with this question, and we've never come up with anything better to end our episodes with, so you get it too. So if you were going to dominate a category at the county fair, what would it be? And categories can be real or made up to make sure that you win.
Hot dog eating contest. I can really pack them down.
Okay, nice. Speed?
I would. If I was hungry.
Do you do like I've seen the professionals where they like dip them in water and shove them in? Like, are you going there?
I need like the full bun and ketchup and mustard, but I feel like I could really slam them down. Or like a pie eating contest. I feel like I would dominate in that.
I like that. Yeah, our 4-H kids get pretty serious out there. So before we sign off, do you guys want to remind us where we can find you individually and together on the internets?
Ags, Most Okayest Farm Girls. You can look us up. At Green Pastures Cattle is my Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming on with us today. And I think we're like all best friends now. So like, there, done. New friends. Come visit me in Canada anytime.
Thank you for joining us on Barnyard Language. If you enjoy the show, please support us on Patreon with a donation.
Big thanks go out to our show editor, Krista Paffrath at the Rural Podcast Network.
Please rate and review the podcast wherever you listen and follow the show so you never miss an episode.
If you want to connect with other farming families, join the private Barnyard Language Facebook group.
We are always in search of future guests for the podcast. If you or someone you know would like to chat with us, get in touch.